Hello, I'm Sasha Swenenvine. You're watching GBC World News, a broadcast from Houston, Texas. At least 5 Pakistani police officers died in the northwest as suspected Taliban militants stormed a police station.
Reinforcements were called in to regain control of a police station in northwest Pakistan stormed by suspected Taliban militants. It's reported 5 police officers were killed in the assault by at least 3 attackers armed with automatic weapons and grenades. The target was a police station in Kulachi, a small town close to the volatile tribal region of South Waziristan. In the wake of the attack, there were signs of heavy damage. The wounded were taken for treatment at a nearby hospital. South Waziristan is a major al-Qaeda and Taliban sanctuary on the Afghan border. Militants have stepped up attacks in a campaign they say is in retaliation for the killing of Osama bin Laden by US Special Forces on Pakistani territory.
Women take to the streets of Sana'a, joining a call for change in Yemen.
Women add their voices to calls for change in Yemen. Like their male counterparts, they're looking for an end to President Ali Abdullah Saleh's rule and want to see a transitional government. Some wore graduation gowns as they took to the streets. They seek no guardians for their country.
We hope that all negotiations will stop and we will start forming a transitional council as a first step to establish a civil state. We refuse completely any form of external guardianship, especially the American and the Gulf guardianship. We started this as a revolution, and it will end as a revolution.
The UN said it will send human rights investigators to Yemen next week to assess the situation after months of unrest. The United States and regional powerhouse Saudi Arabia are worried that Yemen, rocked by months of popular protests, could slide into violence that would be exploited by al-Qaeda to launch attacks in the region and beyond.
We now bring you a roundup of business news.
In the midst of a sluggish economy, signs U.S. factories may avoid a sharp slowdown. New orders for manufactured goods rose in May, and a gauge of business spending also rebounded strongly. Now, that suggests the economy is likely to regain momentum later this year. Michael Gaspin with Barclays Capital.
We do see the U.S. economy as recovering into the second half of the year. We think the 2 main factors that caused the economy to slow in the first half were higher energy and gas prices and supply chain disruptions from the earthquake in Japan, which particularly hit automobile production and automobile sales.
Meantime, the government says the economy grew at a slightly better rate in the first quarter than originally thought. That's little help, though, in cutting the budget deficit. Lawmakers in Washington are digging in their heels on taxes and spending. Republicans refuse to raise taxes. Democrats insist on measures to boost the struggling economy. Conrad Black is headed back to prison. A U.S. judge ruled the ex-media mogul had not served enough time for defrauding investors. The judge sentenced him to 3.5 years, but will give him credit for about 2 years already served. He was out of prison after a successful appeal last year. Cyber criminals strike again. This time they hacked the website of Electronic Arts. It's the latest victim in a series of cyber attacks against video game companies. And privacy advocates are criticizing Citigroup for not offering its clients who were hacked the same degree of identity theft protection as other companies. In the markets, U.S. stocks lost ground for the 3rd day on worries about the Italian banking sector and Greece's austerity plan. For the week, the Dow fell and the Nasdaq rose. The same uncertainties pushed the European shares to their longest losing streak since 1998.
Israelis called on the government to secure the release of soldiers abducted by Hamas 5 years ago.
These are pictures of Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. And this sign marks the number of days since he was captured by the militant group Hamas. Saturday was the 5th anniversary of his abduction, an event that has become a powerful symbol for Israelis. In Jerusalem, many turned out to demand the Israeli government secure the 24-year-old's release. They include his mother.
From our perspective, it is another day without Gilad. 5 years is a round number, but it's like yesterday and the day before. This is our feeling. Gilad has been in captivity for a long time, and we call on the Prime Minister to do everything he can and to sign the agreement so that Gilad can come back home.
Shalom, אני גלעד בנועם ואביו השליט.
Shalit was abducted by Hamas militants during a daring raid in June 2006. He was then spirited into the Gaza Strip. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's committed to seeking Shalit's release. But his government has balked at Hamas's demand to free hundreds of prisoners, some convicted killers, in return.
Charles and Camilla, known as the Duke and Duchess of Rothesay, when they visit Scotland, attended a parade for the 3rd annual Armed Forces Day in Edinburgh on Saturday. Prime Minister David Cameron and Scotland's First Minister Alex Salmond also attended the Edinburgh parade. Edinburgh is the official 2011 host city for the parade, and up to 100,000 people are expected to attend different events in the Scottish capital over the weekend. Various other street parties and parades in honor of British forces are being held across the United Kingdom as part of Armed Forces Day. You're watching GBC World News. We'll be right back after this with news in the US.